Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodhanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Namunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. I just need to quickly send one text that we are out of iodine in the pan. Somehow or the other. Yeah, somehow or the other, someone didn't order. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. And it is Canto 7, Chapter 2, Hiranyakashipu, King of the Demons. And today's text is text number 23, if I got it right.
23 is correct.
Where is chats? Okay. So today is, of course, the auspicious day of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It's also a half-day fast. And okay, how shall we do this? Normally we don't have so many attendees in person, so we have to adjust the process. You have copies? No, you don't. Okay. All right. Yatambhas prachalata. Please repeat. Yatambhas prachalata. Taravo api chala iva chakshusha brahmya mamanena drishyate kalativa bhu yatambhas prachalata taravo api chala ivam chakshusha brahmananena brahmyam manena drishyate kalativa bhu yatambhas prachalata taravo api chala iva chakshusa brahmanena drishyate kalativa bhu. Anybody wants to try?
Sure. Yatambra Kalata Taravopi Chalayva Kapshusha Brahmya Menya Trishyate Kaltiva Buru.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yatambasa prachalata taravopi chala iva chakshusha pramyamanena drishyate kalati vuvu.
Anyone else? Thank you. Yatha, just as ambhasa by water, pracha, moving, tarava, the trees on the bank of the river, api, also, chala, moving, iva, as if, chakshusha, by the eye, brahmanena, moving, ati, moving, iva, as if, bhu, the ground. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Because the movements of the water, the trees on the bank of a river, when reflected on the water, seem to move. Similarly, when the eyes move, because of some mental derangement, the land appears to move also. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sometimes, because of mental derangement, the land appears to be moving. A drunkard, for example, or a person with heart disease sometimes feels that the land is moving. Similarly, the reflections of trees in a flowing river also appear to move. These are the actions of Maya. Actually, the living entity does not move. Stanur achalo yam. The living entity does not take birth or accept death, but because of the transient, subtle, and gross bodies, the living entity appears to move from one place to another, or be dead and gone forever. As the great Bengali Vaishnav poet Jagannananda Pandit has said, Pisachi paile yena mati chana haya maya grasta jivera haya se bhava udaya. According to the statement from the Prema Vivarta, when a living entity is conditioned by material nature, he is exactly like a person haunted by a ghost. According to the statement from the Prema Vivarta, when a living entity is conditioned by material nature, he is exactly like a person haunted by a ghost. One should therefore understand the fixed position of the spirit soul and how he is carried away by the waves of material nature to different bodies and different situations. Under lamentation and hankering, one achieves the success of life when he understands the constitutional position of his self and is undisturbed by the conditions created by material nature. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha. So, of course, we're in this chapter and about Hiranyakashipu, king of the demons, and we see in these verses Hiranyakashipu is trying to pacify his mother and nephews and family members, and he's speaking this very, very high philosophy. We see from the Bhagavatam that the demons, especially the bigger demons, they were endowed with so much of immense power, but of course the only lacking is surrender to Vishnu. And we see in the case of Hiranyakashipu, it's non-different. He's very, very upset that his brother was killed, and he wants to avenge the death of his brother Hiranyaksha. So, of course, we see in this chapter that he is accusing Vishnu of being partial to the demigods, and this is why Vishnu has killed his brother. So he wants to avenge, Lord Vishnu, because of his Vedic understanding of the scriptures. We'll see so many nice verses. As the chapter plays out, so many nice verses he keeps reciting. In this particular one, of course, he is giving the analogy of how, because of the movements of water, the trees on the bank of a river, when reflected on the water, seem to move. And then there's this not so nice example of when the eyes move because of some mental derangement, the land also appears to move. And so Prabhupada is elaborating here that we should understand the constitutional position of the self, and in all circumstances, happiness or distress, be completely fixed in understanding that the spirit soul cannot be disturbed by all these material conditioning. And we'll see that, of course, Hiranyakashipu, in order to pacify his family members, he speaks this high philosophy about how spirit soul cannot be cut. So he's speaking Bhagavad Gita. Let's go through a few verses about the spirit soul. So Bhagavad Gita, of course, Prabhupada is quoting in the last portion of the purport about the nature of the spirit soul. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of the false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities, which are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. So it is because of our material conditioning, lifetime after lifetime, that we are bewildered and cannot understand what is matter and what is spirit. And so Hiranyakashipu, of course, is preaching to his family members that you should not lament so much about the body of my brother, our family member Hiranyaksha. And he's starting to speak about the nature of the spirit soul. And we remember from Bhagavad Gita in the there's so many nice verses which gives the actual nature of the spirit soul. So I'm reading from text 17. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore fight, O descendant of Bharat. Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it is slain, is in knowledge. For the self slays not, nor is slain. For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, everlasting, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Text 21, O Partha, how can a person who knows the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble, and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. So, of course, this is Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. If, however, you think that the soul or symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament. One who has taken birth is sure to die, and after that, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. So, it's nice for us to repeat this, because in this current Kali Yuga, we're very, very forgetful of the nature of the spirit soul. And, hearing it again and again, hopefully we can get the understanding that the spirit soul, the body that it travels in, along with the mind intelligence. Imagine that we have to take these lessons from such a big demon, even Hiranyakashipu. And, like that, there's been so many demons, who have so much understanding of the Shastra. Of course, we understand that Hiranyakashipu, he had performed so much of defeating the demigods. And so we find there was a similar case of Kamsa. At some point, when the Yogamaya that had taken birth, and after he tried to kill Yogamaya, because when he tried to smash her against the ground of stone, she immediately flew off his hands, and from being suspended in the air, she I have some of these verses here. She chastised Hiranyakashipu, and of course, the demons, they're accustomed to worshipping Kali, so he could immediately recognize and understand who this personality was. And of course, she chastises Kamsa. Where are these verses? And then we'll hear, again, Kamsa speaks such nice philosophy to his sister, begging for some mercy. It's in the 10th canto, in the 4th chapter, and I'm reading from text 12. So this is Yogamaya. O Kamsa, you fool, what will be the use of killing me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has been your enemy from the very beginning, and who will certainly kill you, has already taken birth somewhere else. Therefore, do not unnecessarily kill other children. After speaking to Kamsa in this way, the goddess Durga, Yogamaya, appeared in different places, such as Varanasi, and became celebrated by different names, such as Annapurna, Durga, Kali, and Bhadra. After hearing the words of the goddess Durga, Kamsa was struck with wonder. Thus he approached his sister Devaki and brother-in-law Vasudev, released them immediately from their shackles, and very humbly spoke as follows. Alas, my sister, alas, my brother-in-law, I am indeed so sinful that exactly like a man-eater, Rakshasha, who eats his own children, I have killed so many sons born to you. Being merciless and cruel, I have forsaken all my relatives and friends. Therefore, like a person who has killed a Brahmana, I do not know to which planet I shall go, either after death or while breathing. Alas, not only human beings, but sometimes even providence lies, And I am so sinful that I believed the omen of providence and killed so many of my sister's children. O great souls, your children have suffered their own misfortune. Therefore, please do not lament for them. All living entities are under the control of the Supreme, and they cannot always live together. In this world, we can see that pots and dolls and other products of the earth appear, break, then disappear, mixing with the earth. Similarly, the bodies of all conditions, living entities are annihilated. But the living entities, like the earth itself, are unchanging and never annihilated. Na hanyate. We should offer some yogurt. How are we going to offer yogurt?
There is no top.
There is some at home.
Should I spray it with it?
Yeah, if you can go there. Hopefully Parijara is listening. Parijara, somehow just give a little yogurt to Galaswarup for the offering. So unfortunately, someone stole the deity's yogurt. Such an unfortunate situation. Someone stole the deity's yogurt last night. I was meant to do that before class. Similarly, the bodies of all conditioned living entities are annihilated, but the living entities, like the earth itself, are unchanging and never annihilated. Text 21, who does not understand the constitutional position of the body and the soul, Atma, becomes too attached to the bodily concept of life. Consequently, because of attachment to the body and its byproducts, he feels unaffected by union and separation from his family, society, and nation. As long as this continues, one continues his material life. So this is King Kamsa speaking this high philosophy. So, I was listening to one lecture by Radhanath Swami, and he was explaining that if we, didn't know the context of the verses that I guess even Kamsa is speaking, one would think that, some Paramahamsa, some great big devotee is speaking, if you just remove these names of these personalities. But this is how proficient, these great big demons were in the scriptures, the Vedic scriptures. In the bodily concept of life, again, comes as continuing. In the bodily concept of life, one remains in darkness without self-realization, thinking I'm being killed or I have killed my enemies. As long as a foolish person thus considers the self to be the killer or the killed, he continues to be responsible for his material obligations. And consequently, he suffers the reaction of his happiness and distress. So, of course, the previous chapter, we already established, from so many verses, so many examples given, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is equal to everyone. It doesn't have, any favorites. And, so many examples were given. And of course, one of the main points was that even big demons get liberation. So if he was very, very partial, according to the charge that Hiranyakashipu is making, then he wouldn't give any demons liberation. They would all be kind of like in a situation like King Vena was. You remember the pastime of Maharaj Anga? He wanted so much, a son, and eventually he got the son who was named Vena. And Vena was just such a ruthless demon. I mean, demons, of course, we read just now. Rakshasas and demons, all of these guys can even eat their own children, but Vena was, completely on a different level. And, he wasn't in a position to be killed by the Supreme Lord. And so in this way, he never got liberation like Hiranyaksha got, like Hiranyakashipu will soon get. So, and, even Kamsa. So, of course, they were killed by the Supreme Lord and they got liberation. We read also in the previous canto how even in the subterranean heavenly planets, there's just so much of enjoyment. There's no disturbances. Like, in the upper planetary, heavenly planetary systems, where the demigods are living, there's always, disturbance because the demons are always going and trying to take control. They're, so hungry for control that even they go to the upper planetary systems and try to take over the position of King Indra. So, but in the subterranean heavenly planets, we read there's so much of sense gratification, so much of enjoyment, and there's actually no disturbance in these subterranean heavenly planets. So, people taking birth, they can think that, okay, life is very, very nice. But, what is the use of this cycle of birth and death, even in those planets, that everyone has to eventually die? Actually, in the subterranean heavenly planets, I did find something here that there was no enjoyment is so great. There's even in the Bhagavad Gita, there's so many verses related to how much of enjoyment there is in the lower planetary system. No, I can't find it. Sorry. So, of course, Hiranyakashipu is just making the point that the soul is indestructible. We should not lament. And of course, he's making it his personal goal to find Vishnu and kill Vishnu. And then, of course, we are familiar with the pastime of how much he had tormented his son Prahlad Maharaj, and how Prahlad Maharaj was a pure devotee. How did Prahlad Maharaj become a pure devotee of the Lord? Of course, we understand he had heard, Narad Muni heard from a pure devotee of the Lord, speaking philosophy, whilst even he was in the womb. So, somehow or the other, by the mercy of the devotees, in the association of devotees, we need to understand what is matter, what is spirit, what is the goal of life. Our understanding as devotees is that we all want to go back home, back to Godhead, be united with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And we're all trying to make a practical plan in our day-to-day lives, considering all of our conditionings, lifetime after lifetime of conditioning. But Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, is there to guide us on this path. And previously we've been reading how, as a devotee, we can practice and try to live the life of a devotee in so much that we can cultivate the 26 qualities of devotee. So by cultivating the 26 qualities of a devotee, we can gradually make progress in our spiritual lives. So number one, cultivating these 26 qualities of devotee, trying to follow the 9 processes of devotion. We understand that any one of these processes can make us qualified to be able to go back to Godhead. The ideal understanding is that we want to shed all of these layers of conditioning that have accumulated on our hearts, so that we want to clear all of this muck and dirt that has accumulated on our heart, so that we can become eligible. We gave the analogy previously that if we gradually cleanse our own hearts, then in this way Krishna can come and steal our hearts. And no, nothing. Okay. Tough. So our hearts should become softened like butter, so that Makanchor can come and steal our hearts. So we want to gradually practice in the association of devotees, purify all of these bad habits that we have accumulated from lifetime after lifetime, and gradually make our way back home, back to Godhead. So that's all I had. There was one more. What I wanted to read. Okay, I can read that later. Any comments, questions on today's verse, corrections, additions, subtractions? We know all about the spirit soul and how it is separate from the body, so that we are equipoised in all circumstances, not disturbed by happiness and distress. So we previously also read 7.132. Somehow or other, one must consider the form of Krishna very seriously. Then by one of the 5 different processes mentioned above, one can return back home, back to Godhead. Prabhupada was mentioning in that purport, impersonalists and atheists always try to circumvent the form of Krishna. Great politicians and philosophers of the modern age even try to banish Krishna from Bhagavad Gita. Consequently, there is no salvation. But Krishna's enemies think, here is Krishna, my enemy, I have to kill him. They think of Krishna in his actual form, and thus they attain salvation. So we see, in the case of Hiranyakashipu, he was also meditating on Krishna all the time, thinking how to kill him, how to kill him. And of course, in that previous chapter, we spoke about Shishupal and how envious he was of Krishna. And of course, how he met his end also. So Prabhupada mentioned in that particular purport, the regulative principle is that one must always think of Krishna, whether as a friend or enemy. So of course, as devotees, we don't want to be inimical towards Krishna, because this is what brought us here to the material world in the first place. We want to think of Krishna favorably. Anya Bilasita Sunyam, Jnana Karmadi Anamritam. So, anyone? I was
thinking, none of what you were saying, what we want is, I'm a good idea. That really, we accept everything that's favorable for Krishna consciousness and reject everything that's unfavorable. But it means it has to go beyond knowledge, because all these things need to have knowledge.
Right.
So it's actually about the relationship with Krishna.
Right.
So knowledge of what's favorable means that we have to cultivate the relationship with Krishna.
Right.
Right.
Thank you. Yes. So Gokulesh Prabhu is mentioning that, we need to go beyond this knowledge, because we can see these big demons had so much knowledge, but what is the use of all the knowledge that they have? And we want to go beyond just being on this intellectual platform, because even the Mayavadis, these impersonalists, they have so much of knowledge, immense knowledge. So much so that, they can twist the facts of life so much that, once one gets contaminated with this Mayavadi philosophy, there's, practically no hope of redemption. So we want to go beyond, this gyan, this knowledge, and we want to develop a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what better way than to do it in the association of devotees? So it is only in the association of devotees one can relish the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's one nice verse in the 5th canto, 13th chapter, text 21, where Maharaj Ruhugana is speaking. And he's mentioning this birth as a human being is the best of all. Even birth among the demigods in the heavenly planets is not as glorious as birth as a human being on this earth. What is the use of this exalted position of a demigod? In the heavenly planets, due to profuse material comforts, there is no possibility of associating with the pure devotees of the Lord. So Prabhupada in that purport is mentioning our disease. Human birth is a great opportunity for self-realization. One may take birth in a higher planetary system among the demigods, but due to the profusion of material comforts, one cannot gain release from material bondage. Even on this earth, those who are very opulent do not generally care to take to Krishna consciousness. An intelligent person actually interested in getting freed from the material clutches must associate with pure devotees. By such association, one can gradually become detached from material attraction of money and woman. Money and woman are the basic principles of material attachment. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised those who are actually serious about returning back to Godhead to give up money and woman in order to be fit to enter the kingdom of God. Money and woman can be fully utilized in the service of the Lord, and one who can utilize them in this way can become freed from material bondage. So yeah, as Prabhupada was mentioning, I mean, as this verse mentions, everything we're experiencing in the material world, is through these shaded lenses, and that's why Hiranyakashipu is giving the example here. Because of the movements of water, the trees on the bank of a river, when reflected on the water, seem to move. Similarly, when the eyes move because of some mental derangement, the land appears to move also. And of course, Jagannath Pandit mentioning, according to this statement from the Prema Vivarta, when a living entity is conditioned by material nature, he is exactly like a person haunted by a ghost. How many of us think we're haunted by a ghost? We all think we're normal, good people, very, very nice people. But this conditioning is so deep. And how easily we get carried away. So the idea is, of course, how to make our minds our best friend. Otherwise, it can become our worst enemy. And so it's this mind, essentially, that's carrying us, from body to body, body to body. Our mind always has a better plan of, how to supposedly keep us out of trouble. And we all know that an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So we want to all be nicely engaged in the devotional service of the Lord and his devotees. And in this way, by being engaged in devotional service, because we learned in the last few cantos or chapters even, that devotional service is not a material activity. And, I try to repeat that to myself every single day. Devotional service is, a great opportunity for us to be able to make spiritual advancement. So we shouldn't take any service lightly. Of course, now there's a whole movement talking about how we want to be engaged according to our nature. But then we come up with the age-old question, what is our nature? And who's going to tell us, reveal what is in our nature. So, it's a gradual process that we can make advancement in our spiritual lives. Firstly, we have to identify that the spirit soul is separate, different from the body. And as we can make this distinction, then there is some hope of us trying to accept that we are parts and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, if there's no more comments, questions, where's all the scholars today? Enlightenment. Okay. I didn't prepare anything to speak about Bhaktivinoda Thakur because we'll have class at 10 o'clock on Bhaktivinoda Thakur's life and learnings.
It is 10, not 10:45.
10:45, I apologize, 10:45.
Well, the festival started here for
10 o'clock is Kirtan. Okay, we'll end there then. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Mantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Go Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Boo.